Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to today's video. Today I want to tell you guys about all the books that I read in the month of October. So if you're excited for that, make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment down below. The lighting is a little odd, I feel. I'm not using any artificial lights, I'm just using the windows, so it just looks a little gray. I don't know. I think it was smudged. Anyway, let's not edit that out, because why? See what it's actually like here. So let's go ahead and get started talking about the books that I read in the month of October. I did not do a great job on my TBR. I think I read none, one. I don't know, one or two or zero, not sure. I definitely talked about that in my last, one of my last videos, my November TBR. So I didn't do a great job, but I did read 5 books. That is a low for me for the year. It's interesting because October last year, I read like 10 books, which was the high ever. So I'm not sure what that's about. I think, well, here's the thing. So October is like my busiest month for work. Like I'm working overtime basically every single night. And it takes a lot out of you, and sometimes like focusing on a book after work is kind of difficult. So yeah, but anyway, I was very busy with work. I had to travel a little bit, which actually helped me with an audiobook or two, so that's actually good. But I also remember last October being obsessed with a book series and like doing nothing else and just reading every night. For like a week to finish the whole series. Actually finish up to publication. I actually reread one of those books this month, but I also was single last October, and this October I am not. So I have another person who I live with, and they take up some time, you know? I don't know what the heck that's about, but anyway. So let's go ahead and jump into the books. Let's actually start with the first one that I actually finished, which was Rule of the Aurora King by Nisha Tooley. This is the follow-up and the sequel to Trial of the Sun Queen, which I read the previous month. I read in September. I had already read this last October, as well as the book that comes after, but I was rereading the series because I wanted to read the 4th book, and I didn't remember enough about the series to read it and like really get the full experience out of it. I have finished it since, so next month you'll see the final 2 books in this video, but this time I read this one, and I thought this was just as good as it was the first time. I think I gave this 4.5 stars. And it really set up a lot of world building, but while it was a lot of setup and world building, there was also a lot of stuff that actually happened. You learned a lot about why the main character is where she is. I can't say too much without like giving away spoilers and stuff, but basically she's like kind of on the run and trying to figure out who is her ally and who is not, and all those other things, figure out why the people are even after her, etc. So yeah, I thought this was pretty good. I like this series a lot. I ended up finishing the series. The last book was slightly disappointing. It wasn't like disappointing, but it was definitely worth the read, especially if you like Trial of the Sun Queen. The characters are great. So yeah, finished that. I gave that one 4.5 stars, yes. The next book that I finished was Making It So. This is a memoir by Patrick Stewart. I'll move over a tiny bit so that I can put the picture here. This took me a really long time to listen to and to read, and it's not that it wasn't interesting, it was very interesting, but I don't listen to audiobooks a ton, and I drove a lot in the month of October. I have to go to a different city for meetings for work, and so I had at least 2 hours each way, so I was able to get a lot of that done in the car, and then I was able to finish it at home, like just doing house projects or, you know, crafts and stuff like that. So I finished this. It was Patrick Stewart's memoir. If you don't know who Patrick Stewart is, he is a pretty famous actor. He's in a lot of like science fiction-y stuff. So he is Professor X, and he's also Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek Enterprise. My boyfriend and I are rewatching that right now, and it's so great. If you have never watched it, I mean, it's the technology of its time. It started in the 80s, but it's a very good show. I remember watching it as a kid, and really like loving Jean-Luc Picard's character, and he reminds me of my dad. Probably because I watched it with my dad, but also they're both kind of bald. So anyway, but it was interesting listening to his story about, you know, when he was born and where he was born. He's from England, and yeah, just like listening to how he got to there, because it wasn't until he was in his 40s that he was cast as Jean-Luc Picard, and his career in Hollywood really took off. But he was a pretty established Shakespearean author in the Royal Shakespearean Company before that. So it was really interesting learning about him, and his romantic preferences. Maybe not preferences, that's a weird word to say. I don't mean it like that. But he's basically like cheated on all of his wives with a younger woman and then married her. So, Patrick, you're disappointing me in that way. I was sad to learn that, but he was also very upfront about it and is like, yeah, I shouldn't do that. Still he does it. So, I mean, I think his current wife, he's probably done now. She's like in his 40s and he's in his 80s. So who knows? Maybe he could go younger, but he talks about her like, you know, very fondly in the audiobook. I listened to this one on audio because I like doing memoirs on audio because you can like actually hear their own voice. But I also will read one too, but I just had this one on audio, and it was a 25 and 25, which I have 10 books left on that. I've read 15, but I have 10 books left. I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish that, but that's okay. So I rated that one 5 stars. I don't generally rate memoirs, and I'm not gonna include like them in like a end of the year ranking because it's really hard to rate someone's life versus like something like this. So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. It was good. Next, I listened to Everything She Never Knew by Annette Chavez Macia. I believe that's how you say it. I'm not sure or Macia. Sorry. If you know the correct pronunciation, I probably should have looked it up before the video, but it's on the screen right now. I read this one because it was for Hispanic Heritage, and I could get a Goodreads bookmark with it, and it literally had, the reason I chose it is because it was on Kindle Unlimited and Kindle Unlimited audio, and I really needed audio this past month to help get through some of the books. I gave this 2.5 stars. It wasn't a bad story or anything, and I really enjoyed the parts of like learning about the Day of the Dead, and like Hispanic culture and all of that. It wasn't written very well. That's the thing. It was kind of like, first I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this, and it's kind of like, okay, I could write that. So, you know, it just wasn't that good. The story was entertaining. It was like basically about a divorce. It was about a woman is broken up with by her husband, and he cheats on her with her best friend, and then they go off together, and she's left at home. They live next door to each other, and it's basically like unveiling of this woman's character, the best friend's character, and how she really wasn't a very good friend at all. And then it's also her relationship with her mother, which was pretty relatable. So yeah, I mean, it was a good story. It was just the writing wasn't very good. And so it was kind of a struggle to get through. I tried to like actually read it on my Kindle as well, and I was like, oh, gotta continue this on audio. So I did. The next one that I read was Catabasis. I believe I gave this like 3.75 stars. This is by R.F. Kuang, or maybe 3.25. Looked like maybe 3.75. I'm not really sure if it's 3.5, somewhere around there. This is R.F. Kuang's newest release. I've only read Yellowface by this author, but and I didn't love that book. Mostly like I just didn't love the characters because they were really unlikable. I found the characters in this one more likable than I think she tends to write. Also has beautiful sprayed edges. Like, can we talk about how freaking beautiful this book is? When I put it on the shelf of like books that I've read, it's gonna be outward facing like this because it's really, really pretty. The dust jacket has gotten a little messed up, but you know, that's okay. Very beautiful book. Really glad I read this. It is basically about these two magician students. In this world, magic is like an actual real thing, and you can study it at university. They both go to Oxford. Cambridge. Sorry, any people who would be upset that I mess it up. But they go to Cambridge, and it's basically about these two student rivals who are doctorate students underneath this like really not great professor. He has a bad reputation for treating his students badly, but he is very respected like in the industry. So like you can get whatever job you want after you study under him, basically. But he dies. And so they're like, shit, how am I gonna finish my doctorate? I can't start over. So we need to go to hell and get him back. And so that's what the story is. It's about the 7 layers of hell and how they travel down to get there. So this is like them doing that. And it's cool. It has like some maps and stuff of like what the 8 courts of hell. So it's pride, desire, greed, wrath, violence, cruelty, tyranny, and then the 8th court, which is where the devil lives, or I think they call him King Yama in this book. So King Yama's domain. And like people know that hell is like a thing in this world and stuff like that. So they have to go to hell to get him. And it's the story of that and what they find and then the adventures that they have there. And it's a lot of character building and like the characters learning things they didn't know about each other. They're both rivals and they didn't like each other before going down there, and then things come out they were once friends and like all that stuff. So yeah, I thought it was okay. My problems with it were it was very like, you can tell R.F. Kuang is very intelligent. You can tell she's very, very smart. And that was a little bit of a turnoff because it was like she was showing off how smart she is. But I think that's a thing that R.F. Kuang often does in her books. It was like a little pretentious at times, the way it was like explained. The magic system was like pretty normal. It's kind of like thought or whatever. And they draw like circles and stuff on the ground. You have to like close the circle to complete the spell and that kind of thing. That's what kind of magic it is. It was a good adventure and I like how complete it was. So like what I wish, actually, there's this book right here. So Water Moon was beautifully written and I loved the like atmospheric writing in this. I wish that the plot of this was in this. Like I wish these 2 books were together and then it would be like the perfect book. So get on that. R.F. Kuang, talk to this girl, Samantha Soto Yambao. But I like the book, but it wasn't like the best book I've ever read. I was really excited about it because I really love like dark academia, and that's kind of what this is. But like I love Ninth House, and in later they end up going to hell in in Hellbent. Makes sense. And I liked that story a lot better than this one. It was very different, but yeah. So I also learned that R.F. Kuang is studying at Yale right now, but I don't know if this is a brand new book, so she must actually be here. So that's where I live. Anyway, I live in New Haven and Yale lives in New Haven. So it'd be interesting if I ever saw her. I'd be like, can you sign this book, please? Thanks. I know what she looks like. She's right here. Anyway, so that's the 4th book that I read. Yeah, I'm glad I read it. But it's nothing that I would, if you don't like dark academia, like I enjoyed the book, but it was a little pretentious for me. That's all. Okay, the last thing that I listened to again was The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This was my book club book for the month. We do like someone picks a spooky book. I liked it a lot better than the last spooky book because I felt like it was actually less spooky. The one that we read last year was, I actually don't think I can reach it from here. Where is it? I might have gotten rid of it actually. Oh no, it's right here. Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. So this one had a haunted puppet. Didn't like that very much. But the one we listened to this year was Ghosts. So it's basically about this girl who, basically her mom dies and she's in school and she's not feeling it. And she's always wondered about what happened to her aunt. Her aunt had gone missing in the 70s back in New York, and so she goes to the town in Fell, New York, and attempts to solve the missing person. There was like a serial killer at the time. A bunch of women had gone missing or found dead in the area, like alarmingly large amount. So there's obviously someone serially doing it. And she investigates the disappearance and finds out different things. And then there's a haunting at this motel where they both end up working the night shift. So you can adventure to how that happened. There's ghosts, and then like all the people in the town that she meets and asks questions to and tries to solve. And then there's people trying to make her not solve it, etc. So, and then there's some reveals at the end. I thought it was very entertaining. I enjoyed it a lot. Some people in my book club really did not like it, which I was kind of surprised about because I thought it was quite entertaining. And it was kind of spooky. Like I'd be like, they're talking about ghosts, and then my boyfriend come around the corner and I'm like, ugh. But I think that's just me being a child. Anyway, so yeah, I liked it. I don't read a lot of horror, so that's probably why I did like it, is because I actually thought like, oh, this isn't that scary. I don't want to read anything like Stephen King. I just bought The Stand, which I think is The Strand is the movie, but that's like 1,000 pages. I didn't know that when I purchased it. I got it on my Kindle. But I don't have a lot of horror books on my TBR. I think A Dowry of Blood. Yeah, Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson I have. And I'll read this eventually. I wanted to read it this October, but of course I didn't get to it. But, that's the only horror I have. I don't even know if this counts as a horror. I think it does, but yeah. Anyway, that is everything that I read. So my favorite read of the month was probably, I guess, Rule of the Aurora King. I really enjoyed the memoir by Patrick Stewart, but I listened to that for like 3 months. It took me to listen to. So, and then my least favorite read, Everything She Never Knew. It just wasn't very well written. The story was fine, but it wasn't like anything I wouldn't recommend. Unless you're like a divorced person, maybe it would be relatable in that sense, but it just wasn't very well written. It was like, I went through the door and then I saw that and then I saw this. And I'm like, oh, it got better as the book went on. But at the very beginning, I was like, oh no, this is painful. But that's me being a pretentious jerk. So, I will see you guys in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.